It's perfectly natural, though, for people in the world to push back and argue against us. But what I love is we're supposed to do this. Jude, Paul, Timothy, Jesus, go out into the world, demolish strongholds and arguments, demolish them. Keller says that's what the arguments of the world, that's what we're supposed to do. And in order to do that, I said it last week, we have to know it. We have to know the truth if we're going to try and demolish untruth. If we're going to go stand against the arguments of this world and demolish them, this is the tool with which we demolish them. And I said it last week, that Paul is not saying demolish people. He's not saying tear people down. He's not saying make people feel guilty or condemn people. He is saying demolish arguments, demolish strongholds. And a lot of Christians, really, we miss that. We get so focused on, well, you should do this, and we spend a lot of time telling people what they shouldn't do, instead of saying, hey, Jesus, here's what he did. And a quick side note, because as I was doing my notes, this came to me. What's funny is in apologetics, if you don't know anything about apologetics, it has nothing to do with apologizing. It's basically the practice of defending the faith, learning how to argue against the nonsense that comes against Christianity. And really, it'll grow your faith if you spend any time reading anything by apologists or watching, like Frank Turek, if you've ever seen him, he's an apologist. The arguments of the world, when people come to us and say, well, that's offensive, you shouldn't try to convert people, well, you shouldn't say your way is the only way. How do you know that? That's just rude. You need to be more inclusive of everybody else's beliefs. What's interesting is they'll say that no one's position on religion, spiritual life, realities of the world, sin, the afterlife, death, nobody's position is superior to anybody else's. And you shouldn't try to convert people. Well, that statement is a religious faith statement. What they're effectively saying is, you need to be converted to my way of thinking because I don't agree with your way of thinking. It's the same argument. They're doing the very same thing that we get accused of. Well, I can't share my faith, but you want to share what amounts to your unfaith. And my religion is bad, but your irreligion is better. It's the same argument. And again, they have a right to believe this. People have a right to believe whatever they want. But when we share our faith lovingly and gently and with kindness, we're not shoving anything down anybody's throat. We're sharing the good news that changes people's lives. We shouldn't try to convert people. Yeah, we should. And in fact, we're commanded to. Take the gospel to all the nations. But I want to point something out, though. It's not our job to save people. It is not our job to save people. As a preacher and a teacher, it's not my job to get people saved. That's his job. There's nothing we can do. And my wife, who's studying to be a licensed counselor and does this kind of stuff, she'll tell you that when with psychology and that way of thinking, that changing someone's worldview is next to impossible. It really is. Converting someone from one way of thinking and one way they see the world and how they view things about reality, sin, death, etc., changing that is almost impossible. The Greeks search for wisdom. The Jews want signs. I would argue that there's people alive today that say, oh, well, if I could just see the evidence and the proof, if Jesus himself stood before him and smacked him in the face, they would still deny him.